Hi, I'm Mark Turner from Turner's Painting School. I've been asked to repair this painting. It's got some damage to the paintwork and it was very loose on the stretcher bars. So I've taken it off its original stretchers. I'm going to put it onto new stretchers that are not stapled in the corners, not fixed in the corners to allow me to stretch it tighter. So initially I'm just going to roll this out of the way. And I'm going to check that the stretcher bars that I've got are the correct size, and I'm going to actually put them together. You notice on the stretcher bar there's like a rim on the edge. So obviously this is the part that goes towards the painting. So when the canvas is tight, it doesn't sit along this wood, it's actually over the top. It stops any marks appearing on the canvas. So I'm going to put these this way up initially, and I've got two long ones and two short ones. And I've got a centre bracing. Because it's such a wide canvas, it needs bracing. It doesn't really need a cross brace, so I'm just going to put this one on initially and see how I feel about it. I may cross brace it. And then I get my short lengths. And on the canvases, as you can see, on opposite ends, they match up. So if you look at these two ends, they're exactly the same. The slot is on the bottom side of the stretcher bar. But if I turn this over, you can see that the slot is on the top side of the stretcher bar. And it's like that alternate on every stretcher bar. And this means you can get different size stretcher bars and make different size canvases. You can push them together. And that's what I'm going to do here. So I've got my long one and my short one. And initially, I'm just going to push them together and wiggle them in. Now, if I push them really tight, it will be square because these have been machine made and they're very accurate. So I don't have to worry about it. I've got my next one. I'm just going to push that in. That is very tight. Before I tap these tight, I'm going to get my centre brace in. So initially I put it in this end, put in slightly diagonally, wiggle it in, all the way. It's quite tight, and again at this end, pull that in nice and tight. If you're going to use a hammer to tap the wood, be very careful because you can dent the stretchers. So ideally use a block of wood and tap the block of wood, or even use the handles, the wood end, and just tap the stretchers together. Keeping them nice and square. I'm going to turn this round and put the other side bar in. And again, you can't go wrong with these because you can't get them, you can't put them upside down, they won't go together. There we go. So again, with a handle. If I go a little bit far, I can tap it back out. twizzle it round and check that these joints are nice and tight, or tight-ish. Now, if I get them nice and tight, like this, I know that this is going to be square because these have been machine made and it'll be accurate. But I always double check. So I have myself a set square and I measure the diagonals to make sure that it's correct. So I'll just check with this initially. That looks perfect. Checking all, if one of these bars was a little bit long, then it would make even one side out of square, and then what I'd have to do is tap the other side out to make it seem larger by giving me a gap. It's always important not to glue these corners, because when the stretch is on and the keys go in, they can be tapped to stretch it even more. And over time, the canvases can go loose on the stretchers, and they do need the keys tapping in and tightening the canvas again. But that's fine, that's perfect. So now what I'm going to do is turn that over and put my canvas on it. So I'm just going to move this out of the way carefully so I don't knock it out of square. I'm going to roll out my canvas. I just want to check which is the top so I know. So, this time I'm making it so what was the bottom of the stretchers is sticking up the flat part, and the bit with the ridge on is facing down towards the canvas. And twizzle it round so it fits correctly. And then I can start to pin this. Now, initially, I like to use tacks. If the tacks are too long, it would start to split the stretchers. I always like to start my canvas with tacks, even if I'm going to staple it, and then I staple it afterwards, and then take the tacks out. Or if the canvas is thick enough, the stretch bars are thick enough for the tacks, then I just use the tacks and tack them in. So initially I just tighten this up by hand. I don't get my stretchers on. These are my stretcher pliers. And if the painting has already been painted, I tend not to use the pliers because it can actually rip the paint that's on the canvas or linen, whichever you're using. So initially, I just tighten up by hand. So here I've got my little magnetic hammer. I pick the tack up. I'm going to pull the canvas over, and right in the centre, just put a tack. I'm not going to knock it all the way in, just to hold that canvas. I'm going to turn my canvas round. This is where you've got to watch that your canvas doesn't start going diagonally. So you've got to keep everything nice and flat. That's why it's good to have a nice flat surface to work with. And again, I'm going to pull this tight, and I can see that I'm pulling it. You can see how tight it's gone because it's stretching here and here. So I'm going to pull that over. Hold it tight, pick up the tack, pop it in, tighten it up. Now, There's a lot of different methods you can use when you're putting a canvas on. A lot of people now would go to the centres of the two sides. I like to get a couple of tacks in on each end and then stretch the side out. And then I work along outwards, pulling the canvas diagonally out and across so that all this doesn't end up being baggy. So I'm just going to pull it out to the side as I'm pulling the canvas tight, pick up a tack, pop it in. I'll take another one to this side, pulling it out. I'll even pull the corner, pull out, over, pick up a tack, and then going to put a couple on this side before I turn the canvas around again. So I'm just going to come over this way. I'm going to pull the corner, pull the canvas over, pick up a tack, pick up a tack. I'm now going to turn my canvas round and do the same on the other side. I'll tug the corner. I'm just grabbing the side here and giving it a tug because I notice it's a little loose bit there. The thing about putting canvases on stretches, take your time, don't rush it, and practice. Even if you've got an old picture that's not much good, you're going to throw it away. Take it off the stretcher and try putting it back on the stretcher again to get used to actually doing it. And you'd be surprised initially when you're not used to it how difficult it is. But as you practice, it gets easier. And we're going to pull the corner again, I'm going to pull the end, pull round, pick up my tack, again, pick up a tack. So I've got 5 on each side now. I'm going to turn my support, the canvas support round, and I'm going to actually pull the centre and put a tack in the centre of the side. Nice and tight, pull it over. I'm going to twizzle it straight down and do the other side. Now, can you imagine if this was on a rough surface and I'm dragging this painting round on a rough surface, you'd be damaging it. That's why it's important to have something nice and soft. So, pulling this out again. And when I pull the centre here, I can see a little wave on the canvas there. So that's what I've got to watch. I've got to make sure that I get the corner, pull the corner out at the same time, so I don't get that wave. Tack. And I can now get a couple of tacks in, stretching out towards the corner. That's good. Going to do this side. And I will work along now until I get to the corners and fold my corners in. Remembering not to put anything across the joint. It must be free to move out when I put the keys in. But I'll come back to that. So I'll finish tacking this up and I'll come back to you afterwards and show you what I do with the corners and the keys. But now take care.